Hey everybody, it's Daniel. Thanks for joining me. Welcome to part 5 of my Android Studio tutorial series for 2020. We're building this inventory management app where we can hit a button, we can type out a product name, Android tablet, and we got it set up in the last video where we could save something, but I actually kind of switched my mind and decided to do something else this tutorial. So in this tutorial, we'll actually instead of displaying what we type, we'll pull something from the internet. So we'll actually have a little message here that's from the internet, from a website, or maybe you have a website, maybe you don't. You can use mine in the meantime. But we're going to go, like this Android app is going to go to a URL, fetch a message, and display it in the bottom left. So right now we're just pulling it from shared preferences, which is what we did in the last video. We got our get our message, saved product name. I'm going to go ahead and comment all that out. So we're not going to actually, we'll use that in a future lesson, but we're not going to use it today. So this special message is actually right here. It's at finepointmobile.com/API/inventory/v1/message, and it's just something I threw up online a few minutes ago. But we're going to display that text there. And the cool thing is, maybe next week I decide, you know what, I want this message to be something else. I can just change it on my website. I can change it on my website, and then it'll instantly update on all of your apps. So every single app you have. So you're watching this in Sunday, March 8th, 2020. But if you're watching it later, maybe this message has changed by then. Who knows? So it's kind of a cool dynamic thing to add. So this is the URL we want to add. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I'm just going to move that over to a different monitor, to my MacBook Pro. And I'm going to go ahead and, we're not going to use this shared preferences code right now, but we want to keep it around. So for what we can do for code that we don't want to use, but we want to keep it around, we can comment it out. And if you say go to any single line, like I don't want to use that line right now, I can go to the beginning and put 2 forward slashes. So do that. And it automatically turns gray, and it's going to give us some errors. But we're also going to comment that out by 2 that, and then 2 those. So what commented out code means basically is Android's going to do all of this screen, but it's going to skip over the lines that are commented out. And that's helpful if we want to write a message to ourselves. So say we want our message to be, we'll use this later, not right now. That can be a little message to yourself saying, hey, maybe if you go back, maybe go 3 months down the road, you want to know, hey, we'll use this later, not right now. I mean, one option is to just delete it, but we already worked so hard, I want to keep it in. And this right here, that's basically what's setting our edit text at the bottom left. I'm going to go ahead and comment that out. And there's a little keyboard shortcut. If you click on the line you want to comment out, and then you press Command or Control, and then the slash, that's on the lower right side of your keyboard, it'll automatically put the slashes there for you. It's just a little toggle. Toggle it on, toggle it off, or it's in the key, but it's probably somewhere up in code. It's probably somewhere up here. I don't know where it is. Yeah, comment with line. That uncomments it. So yeah, you can do the keyboard shortcut, or you can just go there. I like the keyboard shortcut. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually go to the internet. So we're going to go to the internet and we're going to fetch this URL. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to move that over. And maybe we want a little comment to ourselves here. So maybe we can say the URL website go to is that. So that's a little note to ourselves. Okay, so what I want to do is the first thing we need to create a variable. So we have this website here, and what I want to do is we want to go and fetch the message there. So we're going to go to the internet and fetch it. Let's create a new variable. We'll call this variable, we'll call it, I'll call it special message. And that can be anything, but we'll use it in just a second. That could be ASDF, it could be anything. The val signals to Android that we're gonna be using that in a second. So I'll do equals, then first let's do URL, and inside of there, let's go ahead and copy our URL. URL is in all caps, and inside of quotes we'll put that. And so if you'll notice, URL turns red. So I'm going to click on there and do Alt Enter or Command Alt or Option Enter, if you're on Windows, it's Alt-Enter. On Mac, it's whatever, Option or Alt-Enter. So import that. And you'll notice there are two different classes named URL. We want the one called java.net. So we set up a variable, we'll call it special message. We're going to use some code that somebody else wrote. And if you want, you can like Command or Control click on there. You can see all this code somebody else wrote, and we won't get into it right now, but we can see all that code somebody wrote. So we don't have to type out a ton of code. We just write URL. Then we put a URL inside of there. And at the end of this, at the end of the closing parenthesis, put dot read text, I think. Yeah, read text. So this will say, go to that URL and get the text that's there. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to log something to the logcat. So what I'm going to do is Daniel, or you can put your name there, whatever name you want it to be. That's just the special message we're going to write down there. So let's go ahead and type in the message is, and then we'll do the $, because every time we have a variable, whatever the variable name is, we can type out after a $. So special message, there it is. Now we're getting one error right there. It's because the D is red. So we'll click on there and again do Alt-Enter and then import that. And we should be all good. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I think this is all good. So let's go ahead and run it. Quickly go back to the emulator. It's going to pull it up right there. I'll make that smaller. It opens up and then it closes really quickly. I'm not So let's just try it one more time. I kind of know what's going on, but I just want to run it one more time. Let's run it again, and it just opens up and crashes again. It keeps stopping. So what's going on? Every time your app crashes or it doesn't work, it's important to go down to logcat and open this up and try to see what's going on. Now a lot of this stuff, 99% of this logcat, I don't know what it means or what it says, or I don't understand it. But there's a couple of things that can help you out. So if your app crashes, first make sure you select your emulator in the app, which should be selected. And then right here we can select error. And this kind of filters out it by crashes. So this will show you just the crashes. And because we know it just crashed, it'll be somewhere in here. Make sure there's nothing in there. If I type out ASDF, it's going to search for that, but we don't want to filter out. Make sure that's empty. So the error is going to be near the top. And a lot of these start with like at that. Just forget all that. Look for the line that starts something, it's kind of near the beginning. It's this line right here that I know the error is. And this might kind of seem complicated, but if you get a different error, what you can always do, you can usually copy a lot of that and then just paste it into Google or paste some of it into Google, and Google will tell you what's wrong with it. But if you don't know, yeah, you can copy maybe something like that, copy and paste that, go to search engine, DuckDuckGo, Google, whatever, paste it into a search, and some guy on some blog post or Stack Overflow might have an answer for you. Now in this case, I kind of know what's going on. What it says is, hey, network on main thread exception. And I bet if I go here, Google Android, and then paste that in there, we'll get a lot of blog posts about, hey, how do we fix this? And there'll be some long, complicated answers and maybe some internet permission stuff. So if you don't know what to do, this is a good starting point. But, wow, this is a lot of posts, so yeah, I actually know how to fix this. So what's going on here is, let me show you. So whenever an Android app opens up, it's going to start going from the top, and it kind of works its way down here very quickly, like in milliseconds, really, really quickly. So it gets down to this right here, the URL, and it goes to read text. But what Android is telling us is that, let me just give you a scenario. So maybe this website is really slow. It's my old server, it's an old website, it's just kind of slow. This URL might take 10 seconds to load. So what happens when we open up the app and the user has to wait 10 seconds? That's not a very good experience. If you want to do something like fetch a URL, it could take half a second, could take 5 seconds, it could take 20 seconds, we don't really know. A good example is like uploading or downloading a file. Say this were like a video we were going to download. We don't want to like freeze the UI for a minute where they can't open, they can't close anything, they can't switch tabs, they can't press anything, they can't type anything. It will literally be frozen. So what we need to do is we need to fetch this URL in the background. So not where we can not like where it'll block the user from doing other stuff. So maybe they still want to fill out. Maybe they want to keep typing in their product or year or whatever. They can still kind of do that, different string, but whatever. But we need to do this on a background thread, basically, which means we're going to do all of that on the background. You know what? It's kind of confusing. I'm going to delete all that code. We can put it back later. If you want, you can keep it commented out, but I'm going to delete it just so it's kind of clear what we're doing. I'll make some space there. Again, I can put tons of enters in. White space doesn't matter. I can type all kinds of stuff. I can put tons of enters there. It'll run just the same. I'm just putting some space here so it's easy for us to see what's going on, because we're going to be writing some code. So this needs to be done in the background. So how can we do that? We can use Kotlin coroutines. So to use coroutines, they're not in Android by default, but they're kind of maintained by Google and JetBrains, and pretty much everybody uses them. So I'm going to put this URL in the YouTube description, or you could Google like Kotlin coroutines, GitHub. I think I've already Googled that, and it's the first result here. So you can get to it that way also. So it's this URL. You can see it's kind of popular. 7,000 people have started. I think this is it. So just scroll down. And basically what this is a bunch of code some other people have built. And instead of typing out all this code ourselves, what we can do is we can actually use a lot. I don't think this is it. We can we can use code that all these other people have written. So if I go inside of here, we can actually look at some of the code they've written. So all this code, instead of having to write all of this code ourselves, we could just use what these people have made. So we're going to do that. So scroll to the bottom and look for a line that says implementation, and we're going to just steal that line. So go ahead and copy it. Just go ahead and copy that. Let's go back to Android Studio, and we need to paste this in a way where Android knows to use all of this code from coroutines. So what we can do is we can search for Gradle scripts at the bottom there. Now there are going to be two of them. We want the one that says module app. So go ahead and double click on that. And look, there'll be a bunch of stuff here. You don't need to really read this or understand what it does. What you need to look for is where it says dependencies. And you might see a number of lines here that kind of begin with implementation. What we need to do is we need to copy this line here, and I'm just going to make a new line there, and I'm going to paste it right there. And so that's one line we need. We also need another line. We need this for Android specifically right here. So I'm going to copy this line, just something else we need, and this will give us stuff to make sure that we can go fetch that message in the background. That's what these two libraries do. They basically mean it's Kotlin coroutines, and it means, hey, we're going to download a file. We're going to all do it in the background, so the user can still maybe while they're watching, The Office, they can download a Crown or House of Cards or something. So that's all great. We can do it in the background. There's actually one more thing I want to use, which is right here. And again, I'll put this URL in the description, or you can just Google whatever I Googled to get here. Is this it? Yeah. So this right here. So we're just going to kind of scratch the surface with coroutines. But I want to go ahead and copy one of these lines. This line right here. I'll go ahead and copy that. Life cycle scope. We'll just use this for now. Ideally, we might use something else, or later we might switch to that. But for right now, this. So just go ahead and copy this. And this doesn't actually have that implementations at the beginning, so we're going to have to type it out. So just type implementation. Should autocomplete. Put a space and then a single or double quote, and then just paste it in there. And it's giving us an error. Let's go ahead and it might be with the version. Let's go ahead and do 0.1, kind of my cool trick. Make sure so this kind of shows the URL to go to, and then the version. So every time these people update, every time they update coroutines, we want to be able to get the latest. So we need a version, and let's go ahead and change the version. And if we put our mouse over there, you'll see that it says 0.1 is available. It's kind of an old. We also have 2.2.0. So let's go ahead and change this to, I think there's also, you can autocomplete. So if you click on there and do Alt-Enter, yeah, we can change it to 2.2.0. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And before we leave this page, we need to do one more thing. We need to actually click the Sync Now button. And this Sync Now button will actually go to GitHub and all these other URLs, and it will download all this great code that we don't have to write. So it just downloaded all the code there. You will need internet for this, so it may take a few minutes, kind of depending upon how fast your internet connection is. But we just successfully downloaded all that stuff. And I think there's also a sync button if you're, yeah, sync. So you can hit that button, that will sync it. And it's synced really quickly, for me at least. But you may need to wait a minute or two. It might show something great old building at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and close that because we're done with it. So just because we pulled in that library, it doesn't mean that this will automatically be in the background. We have to actually write some code ourselves. So we'll write, right before this special message, we'll write, go ahead and write, we'll do life cycle scope, and then we'll put a dot, and there are lots of stuff we can type. Let's type launch, and we want to launch something. The second one right here, it could be in a different order for you, but we want the one with parentheses and not a bracket, so there are a number of them. We'll go ahead and type that one, and inside of here we'll type dispatchers. I'll just do autocomplete, hit enter, and then .io, we'll do that. And at the end of this, I'm going to get a space, an open bracket, and then an enter. So what this says is, hey, this line is going to start something on the background. It's going to start there and end on that line right there. So we want to move all of this text. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it in this. I'm going to put it inside of this. I'm going to put it inside of this place where it will actually do stuff in the background. So I'm going to paste it inside of there. This says, hey, set up our coroutine. We're going to launch something in the background, and this kind of says, you know, in the background. We don't worry about that for right now. Set this all up. Anything inside of here will be in the background. We could do lots of stuff. We could do tons of stuff. But in this case, the only thing we need to do is just fetch that URL. I'm going to go ahead and just make it on the same line just so it makes sense. This is all kind of one block of code. Save it. I'm going to go ahead and hit the run button. Let's go ahead and go back to the emulator and let's run it one more time. Hopefully this will work, so let's see, and it crashed again. So we select our emulator, we select the app, let's go to verbose, and let's clear this one more time. Let's run it one more time. So I'm going to hit the run button. Let's go back to the emulator, and it just crashes again. I know what I'm looking for, but I don't see it right here. I don't see it. There's no useful message right here. Are we selecting the right app? Yeah, that's, where was it? Example, what do we name it? There are lots of apps on the app. So what I'm going to do, and also if you ever, this sometimes works, if you need to uninstall an app, we can uninstall it. So I'm going to go ahead and uninstall it. Maybe this will help. There's some kind of debugging stuff we can do, so I'm going to uninstall it. And let's run this app one more time just to see what's going on. And we get an error. So yeah, so this is the error I was looking for. So I'm going to put this back to error. So whenever the app crashes or something doesn't work, always open up logcat, and this will tell you exactly, well, it'll tell you kind of why it didn't work. So look again, so all this stuff you can just ignore. One thing that's kind of cool is if you look through all of this stuff for the blue text, so look for the blue text, that kind of looks like your class name. You can actually click on there, it'll take you right to the line that has the error. So it took me to this line, so it's that line. There's an error on that line. So all of this stuff you don't need to read, you don't need to understand. I don't even understand all of it. The only thing you need to read is really near the top. So kind of start reading it. So process whatever, security exception, permission denied, missing internet permission. So what's going on here, and by the way, if I didn't know, I could just as well copy this error there, and I could go into Google and be like, hey, I don't know what's going on here. Let's paste that in. And if I go, I bet you this answer has it. Stack Overflow, yeah, that guy has some scary looking stuff. That's not the answer I was looking for. This is what I'm looking for. So this is what we need to do. So I'll go ahead and explain what's happening. So every time we want to do something special on Android, like maybe access the user's SMS text messages, or make a phone call, or use the internet, or a flashlight mode, or store something, or use the camera. Every time you as an app engineer or developer wants to use the camera, we need to declare a special permission in our app saying, hey, we're going to use the camera or internet or phone or whatever. And so the way we do that is this code is actually all good. I'm actually going to close that because we're done with that. So the only thing we need to do is open up our manifest. So if you open that up, it's actually the first one there. If you double click that, it'll open up the manifest. It's just the only file inside of there. Open that up. And near the top, right after this manifest tag, and again, this is all kind of complicated, but you don't need to know any of it. The only thing you need to look for is just this manifest tag right there. And right after that, make some space. Just put a couple of enters there, and let's just write it there. Let's do our, again, this is the lesser than sign, and then we'll do uses-permission, enter. Then see if we hit enter, they'll see all these permissions we can do. We can do manage calls. We can do like read social stream. We can write to SMS. There are all this different stuff we can do. We can use the camera. We can break. I don't know what that is. Body sensors. We can use Bluetooth. But in this case, we just need internet. So start typing internet, and it automatically completes for us. Or what we could do is we could have just copied this from Stack Overflow. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to write it out, and we'll do slash, so it should look just like that. Or if you want to copy and paste, some will criticize me, you can copy and paste that. Anyways, that's what we need. And I think if I go ahead and save this, and I'm going to go ahead and run it, and let's just see what happens. If it crashes, we can always go to the logcat again. And it crashed again. So I'm going to go to logcat and see what's going on. You know what I'm going to try? I'm going to try uninstalling the app. So let's go ahead and uninstall it. And uninstall the app, hit OK. And let's just try running it one more time just to see what happens. Let's hope it doesn't crash. Oh, and it didn't. Perfect, so it didn't crash. Now one thing, we didn't actually see the text there at the bottom, the special message that if I go back to Chrome, I didn't see this special message. So to actually display the special message in the text view there, we actually have to set it. So, sorry, we actually weren't done with main activity. Let's open back Java, and then the example. Let's open up the main activity. I'm going to go ahead and make that smaller. So actually we're logging it to the logcat, so we should see it in the logcat. So I'm going to change this to verbose. And I'm going to search for Daniel because that's what our tag is right there. You can just search. I could just search for the messages if I wanted to. I could type in the message, and it'll filter it down for you. So the message is, this is an important message from Daniel Malone. Read it carefully. Got it. So if you go to Chrome and I go back to that URL, you'll notice that that is the same message that's at this URL here, which will be in the YouTube description. So this is working perfectly. We actually have it, but we're not showing it in the text view in the bottom left. So what we need to do is we need to do one more thing. So if we go to, I'm going to close that. If we go to resources and then layout and then content main, we need to see the ID for that text view. So let's click on there, and the text view is last saved product. We'll just keep it the same for now, but we'll do, so right inside of our background thread, we'll do last saved product, enter, dot text equals special message. So that whatever that text view is, the text view right there, the text for that is going to equal our special message, which is this URL right there. And by the way, if you want to experiment, you can put in your own URL there. If you do a website, it'll look kind of crazy because it'll be a bunch of HTML. But if all it is just a simple message like this on your if all it is a special message like this on your website, you can put it in. but just be careful. You can put in any URL, but it might show a bunch of HTML text. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to run it one last time, and I think we're done, but let's just see. And it crashed. So what's going on here? Let's go ahead and go back. I thought, oh, I know what we did. We're trying to access, yeah, so we can't, we'll maybe do that in the next video. So yeah, if we get rid of that, I think I know what's going on. If you go back to error, so only the original thread can access the hierarchy. So if we wanted to fix this, we may fix this in the next video. Let's say I don't know how to do this. I can always copy this and be like, hey, how do I do that? I can Google like Android teens, paste it in there, go to Stack Overflow. And what's happening is we're trying to access the view while we're actually, roundabout's not what we want. Text, we could do, we'll fix that in the next, yeah, a lot of this is older stuff. So a lot of this is Java, and we don't want to do that. But there's some good stuff in here. Well, not really. Or what we wanted to, so I'll show you what's happening. So we're getting our special message there, but we're on a background thread, I think, and this right here is on the main thread. So how do we return this message and get it to us back on the main thread, which is what this thing is on? So we could Google something like Kotlin. I always start searches with Android, so Android, set TextView. Maybe something as simple as that might give us the answer. So we get some stuff here. We can read through some of this. I like Stack Overflow. We can go here and kind of see. I usually use live data and other stuff, but we're not going to get into that in this video. I think it's simple. I think it's like really, really simple. Launch, forget exactly. Again, I don't usually do it this way, but for now it would work. Okay, I'll read something and coroutines, global scope. Yeah. Oh. You know, I don't think do we have access? Yeah, we could do it this way, I think. Anyways, we'll do it in another video. So in the next video, we'll actually display it in the URL. No, actually, I want to try something out. I want to experiment. So instead of using live data and view model like I normally do at work and that's what I usually do. Again, what I do is just Google the error, just like read some Stack Overflow posts, and it's be like, how do I do that? Use the global scope. I don't even know if this will work because we're on different threading and stuff, but yeah, we can always just, so global scope. Whenever you want to put something, whenever you don't know what to do, you can always just put a dot, and like, what do we do? In this case, I think it was like global scope, where was he? Launch. Yeah, I'll do it in the next video. And actually in the next video, we might convert this to a view model and we might use observers. I don't know. That's how I usually do it. Launch Dispatchers.Default. Now we'll figure out in the next video. So hopefully this wasn't too depressing. I know a good use for this. We can comment out that line. So if we comment that line out, if I comment that line out by putting those two behind it, we're still on a background thread, but at least it'll put it out to the debugger. So if I save that and run it, again commenting out that line, and we're not using live data or anything, we should see this message down here, Daniel. And in the next message, we might use live data, which kind of converts it over to a main thread. I think it converts it over to a main thread for us. Or we could just use a different scope here, default, or we can use something else. Actually, I'm curious. I'm not that, you know what, we'll do it in the next video. This video is getting long, 29 minutes. Sorry we didn't actually update the text view. We'll do it like the very first couple of minutes of the next video. So yeah, this is how you use Kotlin coroutines basically to fetch a URL. We kind of set up our background thread. We have different threads here, like if you want to do default, we can do default and run it. Yeah, so it should work. I don't think it'll work with default because default fed, we're still on, I think we're still on the background thread. So even if we try that, I think it'll still crash. Because it's just I think it has to do with threading. It's not actually, okay, never mind. I was dumb. Okay. So we can do it that way. We can do Dispatchers.Default, and this should still start the this still should start, all of this code should be on a background thread, but IO is more for, I think IO is more for like if you're writing or reading files and stuff. So it's probably in that scope. We could go inside of here and read about it. We can go read about the different scopes, and I bet we can see the default scope is, I don't know what the default is. Yeah, there it is. Coroutines, standard builder, blah, blah, blah. So my bad. Sorry for teaching you bad stuff. Switch it from IO to default, and this will work for now. And later, what we'll do is we will, I don't know what we'll do in the next video. We'll do something else. But that's the way, oh, so to explain stuff, this starts a coroutine, and dispatchers thought we have IO.default. There's a couple others, I think. There's main thread. We use default. We can go to this URL. That's a special message URL. We'll read the text there. And again, all this is on a background thread. And I think default gives us access to the view, something like that. So that's why we can actually update our text view there. So notice the text view says, this is an important message, blah, blah, blah. That's because we have access to the view. Apparently, if you use default, if you use that threading, or there's probably other ways to like do just this text on the main thread. I don't know that much about threading. Anyways, yeah, and that's our text view. We set its text to our special message, which is our variable right there, and we are good. So yeah, if you want to change out this URL to something else, you can type in, you know, if we do this, that's going to give us a bunch of HTML. So we're not going to use Google, but trying to think of what else. Okay, see you in the next video. Subscribe. Oh, I decided I'm only going to make videos on the weekends. So if you want to see next week's video, I don't know if I'll make another one today, but if you want to see next week's one, go ahead and subscribe. Anyway, I'll stop the video and see you in part 6. I think this is part 5, so I'll see you in part 6. See you. Thanks.